Testing, check. Mic check 1, 2, 3. Yes. So this controversy continues, and it might seem like I'm beating a dead horse, but in an effort to wrap this up, I just wanted to work on this one last time. I compiled a video, and I think it's interesting, so I wanted to do a little breakdown on this video. What better way to do it than to go live? As you come in, please, if you can hear me, just drop a 1 in the chat. Check. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and play this video since I just wanted to react to this video, but maybe I'll just do it live.
Yeah, the athletes were provoked based on the response when Bouaji went down. I think there were instances where persons were cheering when the athlete went down, and the athletes were a bit, disappointed, and they, it took them a while to recover from that experience.
What were the good things about this world-class 3-day meet for you?
But one of the great things is that we've been getting compliments from the local and international fans about how great the meet was executed. Even though, like you said, behind the scenes, there were a lot of challenges, but we met them all head on. And at the end of the day, I believe that the LOC gave the track and field fans a fantastic track event.
We know that the Barbados team had made a protest in the evening, Sunday. Can you take us through that process and what would have triggered the officials' decision to rerun the race?
As you know, and correctly mentioned that the lead-off leg did not leave the blocks, his hand did not leave the track. So that was deemed not a false start. He was not disqualified, and it was rerun based on the decision of the starter. Barbados felt that because they had ran 80 meters and the Bahamas did not run 80 meters, that they were at a disadvantage. So their leadoff runner would not have had the recovery time as the Bahamian leadoff runner would have. So they thought that they were put at a disadvantage, and therefore they protested. Jury of appeal concluded that because the Bahamian athlete did not leave the blocks, he should not be disqualified, and the race should be run over. We could not get a commitment from Barbados to say that they would definitely run. So in that light, it was decided not to run the race over.
But David, but David, why would Barbados protest and then not seem interested in the rerun?
Hey, first of all, I think Sportsman did a really good job by organizing this interview. But second of all, they asked the probing questions, because Barbados protested and decided not to rerun. It suggested that they didn't want a rerun. They were trying to get something completely different from a rerun. Like we have seen throughout the event, most cases that they didn't rerun. They actually disqualify the guilty party and awarded the medal to the next best person.
Well, you'll have to ask Barbados that.
Tell me your thoughts on the process behind the scenes. What had to be done there when the...
So first of all, this is not how Sportsmax recorded it. I stitched it together just to see how the different conversation lined up, because there were discrepancies. And I think that Jamaica, they had their perspective and Bahamas had theirs.
Protest came from Barbados.
Well, Barbados didn't ask for the event to be declared null and void. Barbados was of the opinion that Bahamas was given an unfair advantage by the Bahamian athlete not starting while the other athlete started, and they could run up to 80 meters. And so they felt that there should be, that the Bahamian should be disqualified. So they were not really trying to get a rerun, and that's why they didn't show up for the rerun, because they were not interested. We were of the opinion that there was no need for us to run the race over, because the jury who handed down the ruling did not declare the results null and void. And once the results are not declared null and void, then we didn't have to run the race over. That's our interpretation of the rules, and the other teams were of the same opinion, and it was just no rerun. The fuss was that the Bahamian team, persons felt the Bahamian team should have been disqualified. It was particularly unsettling that the jury, in their deliberation, did not have access to a video of the event. Somehow the video just disappeared, and they were only able to view something on YouTube, which is why their written response was that the unofficial video could not confirm. But it was a bit sloppy that the only race that was not recorded for the purpose of officiating was that particular race.
How strange was that?
And this is kind of why most people had their concerns, because each time that you needed evidence, the evidence was not available. And the teams, they were struggling to get, I would say they were struggling to get justice, because based on what they have been saying, they filed a lot of complaints, some written, some verbally. And they struggled to get a response from the Bahamian governing group. And there was one instance where they filed a complaint about the semifinals disqualification of DeAndre Daly. And he's saying that even after the tournament ended, nobody got any response from them. So these are the things why people would say that there was something going on, or some intentions that we have no idea what they are.
Extremely strange, especially when you consider all the other things that we had to be dealing with. We thought it was particularly strange.
What about the St. Kitts athlete who had to run all alone? How did that happen? Because I don't think I've ever seen that in Carifta Games history.
Reported it to the timing officials, who went through their photo finishes, and it was found that he did not earn the spot in the finals, and it was the St. Kitts athlete that earned the spot.
It's hard, but just look at how he answers the question. It's like, this is a different language. You know, we all speak English, but this guy definitely was doing something. It's just, this is baby language. Definitely not the one that we are used to. I'm going to go back a little bit.
Other things that we had to be dealing with, we thought it was particularly strange.
What about the St. Kitts athlete who had to run all alone? How did that happen? Because I don't think I've ever seen that in Carifta Games history.
Reported it to the timing officials, who went through their photo finishes, and it was found that he did not earn the spot in the finals, and it was the St. Kitts athlete that earned the spot. We then redid the start list, and at the end of the day, we failed to make contact with the St. Kitts athlete, informing him that he had made the finals. We did have some communication challenges at the meet, and I think this all was a part of our shortcoming. You know, as a meet director, I have to take full responsibility for that. We failed that athlete, and at the end of the day, that athlete wanted to run that race. It was until the finish of the race, the 200 that the athlete coaches learned that he did not show. He had the slowest time qualifying for the finals, and he ended up after his run with a 4th place finish, an official time at the Carifta Games.
Hey, you know what? I would like to interpret what he said, but after saying all that, I don't know what he said. Absolutely no idea what he said. I was gonna try to interpret it because I realize it's baby language, but even I can't interpret that one. So I'm gonna just gonna get a different perspective from the Jamaican delegation.
The St. Kitts. I mean, the athlete actually reported to the call room and was denied access. And therefore he was not allowed to run because his name was not on the start. So, you know, the events as outlined by Mr. Charlton is not really what happened. He actually showed up. And it was not until they protested that they realized that the athlete was denied the opportunity to run, and therefore they had to allow him to run by himself.
So
you can just imagine an athlete who made it to a finals in a what would you call a pseudo world championship, because the Carifta Games is like a world championship. We have some of the best athletes in the world. Jamaica by itself is a powerhouse. And after qualifying for a finals, you are excluded from the finals because of some incompetence by the organizers. You can just imagine how that breaks a career. It could drive you. It depends on how your personality is. It depends on who you are. But you make it to a finals and they omitted you from the finals because of incompetence. And then they allowed you to run by yourself. Therefore, you're not motivated to run against, you're not pushed by anybody. And in the end, he ran 100th of a second behind the third place time, which suggests that he might have run a better time if he was competing, because running by yourself is not competing. You're just running for pride at that point. And these guys, I'm not saying that these are deliberate, but who knows? Again, the intentions, they're not clear.
I'm trying to understand something here, and I just want you to help me with this process. Have leeway to use discretion in their decision making.
What race? The 200?
No, just generally.
Well, if you're talking generally, yes, starters do have, according to IWF rules, they do have they can use their discretions at certain times.
And that's where the problem comes in. Now, the starters, they have more power than they should have because it suits their interests. First of all, we should understand that this is the 50th anniversary for Bahamas, and it's the 50th Carifta Games. Therefore, they have an incentive to do extremely well. It's like your independence, the 50th independence for the Bahamas, 50th Carifta Games. Wouldn't it be nice to get 50 medals by any means necessary? No, the starters, they have the power to do whatever they choose. And I'm thinking that's where the interviewer is going with this. Let's take it back from the top there.
David, I'm trying to understand something here, and I just want you to help me with this process. Did the starters have leeway to use discretion in their decision making?
What race? The 200?
No, just generally.
If you're talking generally, yes, starters do have, according to IWF rules, they do have they can use their discretions at certain times. And if you're talking in particular about the 4x1, yes, the starter did use his discretion and disqualifying the Bahamas and rerunning the races right then.
And that's what I'm talking about in terms of the possibility of certain races going into disrepute because of the use of said discretion. Because my question now is straight in regards to that particular race. Wasn't there a reaction time?
Yes, there was. Now, so what happened there, I could not tell you. I could not tell you because we did have the reaction block set. Now the exact detail as to why that did not register, I cannot answer that question.
Oh, so it was a case of it not being registered.
I cannot, like I said, I cannot answer that question right now. But yes, we did have the block sensors on. Why it was not picked up or what? I can't answer that. Yes, I think that is a very valid question as to why that was not used. And I cannot answer why the jury of appeal did not use that in their decision making.
Hey, these are some really probing questions, and questions like this, and how diplomatic Mr. Charlton is, David Charlton, Carifta Director of Competition, how diplomatic he is. It shows that he's trying to hide something. He answers in circles. He discloses what he chooses to disclose. And sometimes he blatantly just said, I can't answer that. He will not put himself in any bad position, because if you don't answer it, you cannot be held. Your word cannot be held against you. And after just digging through and asking the probing questions, you can just see the intentions. It's just clear. It's clear that there was some incentive, some motive. We won't know what it was, though.
Is that the reason why the protest would have been based on the video evidence that would have been used?
That is correct.
Formal request in writing to see the report from the false start information system for the semifinals, for that DeAndre Daly was given a false start. And Carifta Games is
remember, guys,
we've
as you
not
come in,
received
please
that.
drop a like.
Yet they were able to
Please
produce
share.
it very fast for Bahamas to make for the 110 meter hurdles. And we just found it very strange that some of those operational things seem to be working only for the host team and not for all the teams that are participating.
Now, if the Jamaican delegate feels like that, and Jamaica had been dominated, they'd been dominating. They won. They still won. They were the best team. They were the most dominant team. And they felt that they were still at a disadvantage because of lack of information or because of information being withheld. No, you can just imagine what happened to the teams that were minor teams, the teams that could not compete. This is a powerhouse of a team who are competing under harsh conditions. When I said harsh conditions, they know that there is something happening behind the scenes. They're foul play. And whatever affects them, it doesn't reflect in the tally as much as it reflects in the tally for a smaller group. Because that smaller group, some of these teams, they're heading to the Carifta hoping to win 10 medals, 5 medals. So if you cheat 10 medals out of the Jamaican tally, it's almost nothing. But the Jamaican delegation still recognized that they were at a disadvantage due to information, because information is power.
Correct. Formal request in writing to see the report from the false start information system for the semifinals, for that DeAndre Daly was given a false start.
Remember, guys, it's okay to interact. You can drop a like, comment. The more you interact, the more the video gets picked up. Somebody else might be interested in such a discussion, such a live. Please remember, like the video, share the video.
And Carifta Games has ended, and we've not received that. Yet they were able to produce it very fast for Bahamas to make their protest.
And just look at it. They asked, he was just explaining that they requested the false start record for DeAndre Daly. And you're seeing DeAndre on the screen here. This was the 4x1 under 20. They requested it from the semifinals. And the semifinals, they ran the semifinals. He got disqualified. They ran the finals. It's done and dusted. The Carifta Games, it's over. And now we're just talking about the aftermath. Big up yourself, meditation music. We're talking about the aftermath. And it's still, the record was not presented for DeAndre Daly's semifinal mishap. The Koya Scarlett, blessings. So that's one of the problems that they had, the inconsistency, because you'll never know if you really false started in that race. You'll never really know. There are some things that were just blatant, and some of them, it was just brushed under the rug. It was just brushed under the rug, and it was just blatant disregard, because some of the questions, how he answers them is like, you need to ask Barbados about that if you want to know why they didn't show up to run. Barbados asked why Bahamas was not disqualified. That was the question. And they're like, nope, we're not going to disqualify. It would be easier for us to rerun than to disqualify. And then they asked why the St. Kitts athlete did not get to run in the race. They said he did not show up. But then we hear from a different delegation that he showed up, but they still omitted him from that race and allowed him to run by himself. There's a lot of undermining.
For the 110 meter hurdles, and we just found it very strange that some of those operational things seem to be working only for the host team and not for all the teams that are participating. We just believe that the information that the Bahamian team had access to, the same information that everybody else had access to. And I think that's a little bit not what the sport is about. We need to be fair in terms of who has what, that the best result is obtained and not necessarily the best result for you. And I think that's the really concern that most of the delegations had. I mean, the issues were not with the Jamaican team, the issues were right across the board. You mentioned in the earlier segment.
That is correct.
Hey, Garfield Riley, big up yourself. The officials were wearing Bahamas underwear. For sure. For sure. But it shows that they were cooking something. They were cooking something behind the scenes. And after having, think about it, it's a historic event. You only get a 50th independence once. You only get a 50th Carifta games once. There's so many different milestones in this one event. But will they be remembered for the controversies and the intentions? Because we don't know what the intentions really are. It could be that the intention was to just be as strict as they can, but it also seems suspicious. It just seems quite suspicious. I'll keep it going.
Yeah, I think this is the start of the 110-meter hurdles. Yan Shakwan was third and lost his third place based on a belated disqualification for what was deemed to be a false start. There was an approach by the organizers that gave us the feeling that the spirit of a friendly games would be pursued. Having said that, are you then disappointed that over the ensuing days 2 and 3, a lot of the teams didn't feel that way about the approach from the organizers?
I mean, that comes as a surprise to me that the teams felt that it was not a friendly environment. Generally,
you see, that's where that's where the divide comes in. They could not read the crowd. They could not read the room. They didn't realize that the people in the crowd, the fans, maybe the athletes, were disgruntled, and that's that's a major part of you being a host. You must be hospitable, and from what I'm seeing, they weren't very hospitable. They were, if anything, they were a little bit more divisive, because the athletes, the delegation voiced their concerns, and even just from his reaction, it was somewhat defensive instead of it being a little bit more apologetic and understanding and at least try to clarify things. He was more on the defensive side of it, and that's one of the problems with the overall situation. They did not give you that host kind of feeling.
Third place based on a belated disqualification for what was deemed to be a false start. There was an approach by the organizers that gave us the feeling that the spirit of a friendly games would be pursued. Having said that, are you then disappointed that over the ensuing days 2 and 3, a lot of the teams didn't feel that way about the approach from the organizers?
I mean, that comes as a surprise to me that the teams felt that it was not a friendly environment. Generally, working with all the coaches and the athletes, I did not see that, feel that atmosphere. I mean, they have friendly competition. At the end of the day, each delegation, each country, each athlete wants to come out on top.
Thanks, David, and keep up your work as an administrator of track and field in the Bahamas.
We are accustomed to an org.
I don't know if you guys got it right there. The guy said, keep up your work. He couldn't even say keep up the good work. He said, keep up your work as the administrator of track and field. He couldn't give him a real compliment. He had to just say something to close it off, because there was very little to compliment him for or about.
I mean, they have friendly competition. At the end of the day, each delegation, each country, each athlete wants to come out on top.
Thanks, David, and keep up your work as an administrator of track and field in the Bahamas.
We are accustomed to an organized event, scheduled, and we structure our warm-ups based on those schedules, and we report based on the times that you said. But we can't change it midstream. We're not a team like that. We have elite juniors, and we have to protect them.
How did the athletes feel in the aftermath?
based on what was happening here, he was explaining that the Bahamian delegation or the athletic governing body there, they were changing the schedule. They were trying to push race ahead of time that it was scheduled or behind. So it was kind of causing athletes not to get warm up, or athletes would have gotten warm and then cool down. So he was explaining that, so that's one of the problem that they had behind the scenes. And seeing that they had a group of elite athletes who compete at very high levels, they were going to. He said that he would not risk the athlete getting injured because of the time changes. So he was explaining how different problems came up.
To an organized event, scheduled, and we structure our warm-ups based on those schedules, and we're based on the times that you said. But we can't change it midstream. We're not a team like that. We have elite juniors, and we have to protect them.
How did the athletes feel in the aftermath of these things happening to them? Because even at the end, we were told that they weren't even able to enjoy the victory of another Carifta Games. How did they feel?
Well, the athletes are a bit turned off from some of the events. Some of them were based on not necessarily officials, but based on just the general feelings that they experience from some of the other athletes and some of the spectators. And I mean, our athletes have to learn to accept the reality that, you know, you're not going to get a welcome mat everywhere you go, and your rivals and people who you're competing against don't necessarily have to show you, you know, a lot of love, and you just have to compete in that kind of environment. And that's something that they have to also face. Maybe they're not accustomed to that, but that's the reality of how you compete.
And you see, that's one of the evidence that Jamaica prepare their athletes for the worst situations, because that's a speech right there. And Jem, he's saying that you won't get love everywhere you go, but you still have to prepare to compete at the highest level. It doesn't matter, because obviously they did not get the hospitality that they were hoping for on a world stage. And if you think about it, the Jamaican athletes, if they did not show up to Carifta 50, it wouldn't have been Carifta 50 in their 50th independence. It would have been a flop. You know, you hosted an event without having the best. Yet you want to win. You want to gain as much or as many gold or as many medals as possible. I'm guessing the magic number would have been 50 for Carifta 50 in their 50th independence. But if you treated the guests, and I want to say like your guests of honor like that, then you're just shooting yourself in the foot, because the fans, while we all know that it's just being competitive, the fans are upset. The fans are upset, and I'm sure the athletes, they are upset as well, because if you have to give the athletes pep talk for them to stay motivated in an environment where you should be having fun and competing at high levels, preparing yourself for the future, you have to give them pep talk for them to stay motivated. It suggests that the atmosphere is not welcoming, and if the atmosphere is not welcoming, then they will be demotivated, and the memory of Carifta 50 would also get diluted.
Based on not necessarily officials, but based on just the general feelings that they experience from some of the other athletes and some of the spectators. And I mean, our athletes have to learn to accept the reality that, you know, you're not going to get a welcome mat everywhere you go, and your rivals and people who you're competing against don't necessarily have to show you, you know, a lot of love, and you just have to compete in that kind of environment. And that's something that they have to also face. Maybe they're not accustomed to that, but that's the reality of how you compete.
But the Bahamians, David, have been for a long time Jamaica's biggest rivals at the Carifta Games level. And the fans, everyone would have been pumped up for this meet here. And it seemed quite repetitive that a lot of the Jamaicans who won, when they were interviewed post-race, they referenced silencing the crowd, as if the Bahamian atmosphere sort of provoked them into top quality performances. Was that how you saw it? As
the athletes were provoked based on the response when Bouaji went down. I think there were instances where persons were cheering when the athlete went down, and the athletes were a bit, disappointed, and they, it took them a while to recover from that experience.
And there you have it. So it was disheartening just to conceptualize. We are fans of the game. We're a fan of the sport. We if we're just fans and not athletes, we may not know what it takes to become an athlete, yet alone an elite athlete. And if other elite athlete and fans or other athlete and fans are cheering the downfall of an athlete who got injured, and these injuries, they change the athletes forever. They change the game, because now you might lose an athlete who would have given us some real entertainment for years to come. But the delegation, the athlete, the supporters from the country, they're cheering. And what signal would that send to the athletes who are not injured? It probably would say that we are hoping that you might get injured. We would be happy to see something like that. Most time you'd show some kind of sympathy to somebody who got injured. Now, Boaje Nkume is the captain of the male team, the boys team. He got injured. We all know that he is the fastest athlete, the fastest junior that Jamaica ever produced. And that's what happened to him. And they were cheering. So you can just understand the dismay coming from the team. A few comments came in while we were watching that video. The video, it ended. I'll show another one shortly. But I'll just read some of the comments that came in. Jan Mark Sam saying that he's talking in circle. So the question was simple, absolutely simple question. And he was just bubbling and mumbling like a baby talks all over the place, saying stuff that doesn't make any sense until a different perspective came in. And the question was, why was he running alone in a finals? And he was saying that the athlete did not show up for the race. While another perspective said the athlete was there, he was just not allowed to run. And yes, guys, please like the live. Please share if you haven't shared. Please subscribe. Another comment is that the officials were wearing Bahamas underwear. I'm sure they were, for sure. The question again, I was asking, do you think that they made a good decision to cast doubt on the 50th anniversary, their 50th independence, their 50th Carifta games? What will they remember? What will they be remembered for? And Jan Mark is saying that they'll be remembered for the atrocities for sure. Right now, that is the aftermath. That is the taste that's left in the mouth of many. That is what they surely will be remembered for. While some were saying, Garfield Riley is saying that they were friendly to Bahamians. That's for sure, not Jamaicans. It seems like they weren't friendly to the other countries overall, because I've seen videos on social media where other countries, they had a really bad experience. Guyana, for example, seems like they had an extremely bad experience. I would probably have to find a video at some point to remember what happened with them, but it seems like it was a very bad experience. Naturally, if you was qualified for a finals and you have to run by yourself without competition, only to get 100 of a second off from a medal, it suggested that it's a bad experience for you, because you are trying to compete among the best, but you have to compete among the clock, and you were pretty close. The explanation that the sir gave was that he came fourth. Yes, he came fourth, but he ran alone. Imagine coming fourth in a race that it was just you and only you. Eisenberg, Jamaica Revenge should be winning Carifta until God come. Right now, that sounds like Jamaica's blessing because for out of 50, remember this is Carifta 50, Jamaica won 45. And for the past 37 years, they had been winning. So I guess they could just keep it going for a while. The one thing that I was hoping is that at some point, Jamaica could try to push for a 100 medal. That probably would cause everybody else to stop going to Carifta, but at least Jamaica would put a record that nobody can take away. Jan Mark, he was so oblivious as the walls were crumbling. Hey, that guy, definitely, he had no idea what was happening around him, for sure. He had no clue. He was just mumbling. He was just waiting for that interview to over. And to make matters worse, the Jamaicans had a different perspective, and he was more eloquent. So he just sounded more genuine because he was so eloquent versus the other person who was just baby talking the entire time. Dana Dimit. Sir, please, Bahamas host the worst Carifta games ever. And it's their 50th. This was supposed to be their most memorable Carifta games just because of the landmark that it represents. And I'm sure that it will be remembered, just not how they would hope that it would be remembered. Garfield Riley, they were trying to get another medal in the hurdles, but the Bahamian finished behind the Barbados athlete. Oh, I can't remember that one. In the hurdles? Which hurdles though? Was it the 400? Jan Mack. They're young. They'll soon figure it out. The Caribbean, and then there's Jamaica. Really? You know, I always add that. Well, it is true. It's true. Jamaica somehow seems like the barrier that everybody else in the Caribbean need to overcome. Somehow, without Jamaica, the Caribbean is less competitive because Jamaica is competing at a world level, and then everybody else want to compete against Jamaica without not really collaborate with Jamaica. It's more like they would prefer to compete against Jamaica because Jamaica is really high level. But I think that because of how the economy is in Jamaica, they would prefer to use the economy as a reason why they can win, while Jamaica is using talent and people, not the economy. We have no control over the economy because some of these countries, the smaller countries, have a better economy than the Jamaica have. Marlon, cheers, big up. Then if so much countries saying the same thing, then why Bahamas saying otherwise? Because they want to, winners write history, or you can rewrite history. Bahamas, they were trying to write history for themselves. They were trying to rewrite history with this one by taking medals, one medal at a time. They take one medal. I think their goal was to get to 50 medals. How beautiful would that look? 50th independence, 50th Carifta Games hosted in Bahamas, and they got 50 medals for the first time. It was their best medal all, I think it was. So I think that's the history that they were trying to write. And they wrote a very poor history for themselves because everybody saw it. Everybody saw what was happening. Kuya Scarlett, this Carifta left a bad taste in my mouth. This Carifta I'm wondering how the international stage really viewed this Carifta or this past game, because they're saying that they got a lot of commendation, a lot of admiration from the international community saying good stuff. But I wonder if they were just being diplomatic or are they telling the truth? Because we have seen a few instances where they said something other than the truth. All right, don't it? Elena Rowe, big up yourself. Thanks for stopping by. It was memorable for being the worst Carifta ever. For the first time, I was dying for it to end. Imagine the 50th Carifta Games on your 50th independence, and it will be remembered for controversies. And I guess we probably could find 50 controversies. That's probably the next assignment, trying to find 50 solid controversies that could be attached to this particular ceremony. Garfield Riley, the same on 110 hurdles under 20 boys that our third place medal winner was disqualified. Now that's another one that they highlighted. So in the DeAndre Daly situation, they couldn't find the block report, the false start report, the trigger that proved that it was false start. So they had to use the eye test for that one. So after the Carifta ended, they still did not present the evidence of a false start. Now, in the under 20 boys 110 hurdles, they also said it was a false start, but it was after the fact, hours later, and they still did not present the evidence of a false start. But their athlete benefited from it. Their athlete benefited. The guy was actually saying that he had that same, the person who was doing the interview with Sportsmax, he was saying that he had the report in his hand, and they would do a postmortem and make that available. And that postmortem was supposed to be done on Tuesday. Today is Friday. We have no idea what happened. I guess we'll never know. Jan Mark, them pen run out of ink while they were trying to personalize history. The only problem is that while they were using pens, the camera was on them, and only because we have the camera focused on them at this time, while we were able to have evidence. You can just imagine the other Carifta games or the other events where they didn't have the cameras. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give them a 0. Way better than 49. Well, at least, hey, you know what? I can put a link. I'm gonna drop a link in the chat here. And this is just so that anybody want to join in and just say their piece. Because it could feel a little bit distasteful for us, just us to talk and keep talking without giving somebody else a chance to give their perspective. So a link, Bahamian, I just drop a link in there. You could probably explain why it was better than the 49, because it is better. In the 49 Carifta, Jamaica got 90 plus medals. In this one, they only got 70 plus. So I can see your point for sure. Marlon Tracy, good comments internationally, while bad comments regionally. I doubt that. That's what I'm saying. We are very passionate fans for sure, but everybody wants to win against a Caribbean athlete. They want to win against anybody that they can win against, but you get the best possible outcome or the best possible workout when you run against a Jamaican or a strong Caribbean athlete. Marlon Tracy got jokes talking about it was way better than Carifta 49. Carifta 49 was humiliating for everybody other than Jamaica. So I can see why. Bahamian, Jamaica spent all day talking about officiating. The overall event was far more exciting than 49. The event was a good event. I can tell you that the coverage was excellent. The Jamaican atmosphere is a very good atmosphere for track and field. You must admit that, at least. The atmosphere was good. The only problem is that this is not a problem. I'm sure athletes left that event feeling like they did their best and they got just treatment. It's different when you feel like you did your best. No. We saw the officials saying that the athletes are traumatized. All right. I'm going to play just a little bit. I'm going to go back just a little bit for you, Bahamian. There are a couple comments here, but I'm sure a few people came in after others. I'm going to play this again.
They're not accustomed to that, but that's the reality for you from people.
But the Bahamians, David, have been for a long time Jamaica's biggest rivals at the Carifta Games level. and the fans, everyone would have been pumped up for this meet here, and it seemed quite repetitive that a lot of the Jamaicans who won, when they were interviewed post-race, they referenced silencing the crowd, as if the Bahamian atmosphere sort of provoked them into top quality performances. Was that how you saw it? As
yeah, the athletes were provoked based on the response when Bouaji went down. I think there were instances where persons were cheering when the athlete went down, and the athletes were a bit, disappointed, and they, it took them a while to recover from that experience.
So based on what was being explained there, that sounds like trauma. That sounds like trauma to athletes who are trying to become stars. But the good thing is that the Jamaican delegation, they prepared them for it. They were traumatized. It took time for them to recover from whatever they experienced. The atmosphere was good. It was in the Bahamas, where the Bahamas crowd were celebrating their 50th anniversary and the 50th Carifta games. It was good. I'm sure it was good. I'm sure whoever was there or were there enjoyed themselves. It's just that the conversation coming out of the camps and from behind the scenes, it suggested something a little bit different. That's the only thing. Troy Graham. I think before Bahamas hold another track meet, they should send their officials to Jamaica so they could get proper training. I do not oppose to that idea. And not just officials. I think they should probably send a school. They should put together a school or a school representation and send them to champs, to the Boys and Girls Championship, for them to compete at a very high level and get their blood flowing and get what it feels like to be competitive. Because the Jamaican Track and Field Championships, which ended a week earlier, where a junior athlete ran sub 10, a male athlete ran sub 10, and a female athlete ran sub 11. It's showing the kind of competition that the rest of the Caribbean have to go up against. So they probably should send and that's where the friendship and the collaboration should start, in my opinion. That's where it should start. Jan Mark, we get licks so we cry out. That's exactly what's happening. People are saying what happened. And I used this analogy before. If you went to a restaurant with your beautiful outfit and somebody spilled red wine on your outfit, would you talk about how beautiful your outfit is? Or would you say that the red wine, the stain on my outfit is a problem? It's the same. It's just that the different controversies are the stains on that championship. That's what I think. Debbie Williams, 2667. Love and hate can never be friends. Definitely. Reggae music. I'm sure that the championship could have they could have played a few songs towards the end and allow the people to feel a little bit more tranquil. For sure. Bahamian, the atmosphere was much better and the energy was there. It locked in. Again, everybody else in the Caribbean had a rough time when you go up against the best Jamaican team. Even if you're winning, you win one medal here and one medal there. This championship, the Bahamian team won more medal than any other time. So it was definitely a good championship. At champs, I'm not sure what that means. But as I said, I drop a link in the chat. So anybody at all would like to call in, voice their concerns, their opinion, I welcome it. Definitely welcome it. I'll drop it again. Queer Scarlet, the closing show was very chaka. The 40th had some great entertainment and amazing firework. So there you go. When you're talking about hosting, if you imagine going to a dinner, a party, a baby shower, what is a baby shower without hospitality? What's a party without hospitality? People feeling comfortable, having good food, If let's say the food is just the good events, that's the food for the soul, and music to close it off, and everybody gets sent off, and you wish them well on their way, and you welcome them back. That's how you close off an event. You welcome them back. But imagine people just can't wait to leave after an event that I'm sure that a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, emotion, and money got poured into. And the end result is the controversy that we spoke of, not the controversy that we conjured up in our minds, the one that we are speaking of right now. Koya Scarlett, Champs was even better organized, I swear. Champs is definitely a high-class event. Really high class. Champs is like Diamond League of junior competitions. Definitely. No question about that. Marlon Tracy, oh gosh, man. Champs are big something. Champs shut down. Champs, we couldn't even review a video from Champs. We couldn't even review it. We'd have to talk about it and just think about it in your mind. That's how shut down it is. That's the only difference I would say. This one, the coverage was there for the world to see it. Marlon Tracy, big something. Yanma, keep up the good work at Rewrite the Narrative. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. And remember, guys, please like the video before you leave. On your way out, please like the video. On your way in, if you share the video, somebody else might get a chance to take a look at what's happening. Because I'm sure this is a topic that a lot of us are interested in, for sure. When I saw the swim team robbing the athlete their chance of celebrating their win, again, it's two different places, two different things. Jamaica is surrounded by water, but that's all there is to it. We don't go in the water like that. It's a different kind of situation, for sure. It's a different kind of situation. So you should allow the winners to stay on the track and the swimmers to stay in the water, right? Pricey arrow, but you even have kids from other countries come to school here to compete in champs. And those kids are leveling up. Those kids are definitely leveling up. They're becoming better for it. They're definitely becoming better for it. And that's what other countries probably could do for them to level up. And they might, as this a comment earlier, they might learn something from the officials as well. Because each one teach one, right? A lot of Guyanese are going to Dintil now. Didn't know that. Had no idea. But I also saw that the Guyanese, they won a medal in the 800, a girl. I'm sure that it's the right move, for sure. Bahamian, you know one thing? Patriots. I like Patriots, man. It's like when you represent your country, win, lose, or draw, you can appreciate it. You celebrate how you want in Jamaica. In Bahamas, we celebrate our swim team. This is our country, not yours. Go celebrate at home. I'm confused how your mother country celebrate their own. Bro, you are a true trooper. Or I don't know if it's bro or sis, but you are a true trooper. Celebrate all you want, for sure, but don't win all you want. Win the right way. That's the only thing. Win the proper and correct way. Marlon Tracy, it was not appropriate. It definitely wasn't. The swimmers, they cannot swim on land. Keep it around the poolside. That's one way to do it. You don't get to decide what is appropriate. You have to envy us. Oh my God. Hey. No, this kind of entertainment, if you had this kind of entertainment at the end, people would remember it for something completely different from what they remember it right now. Definitely, for sure. 100%. Champs are one event with sellout stadium. 100%. 100%. People watch champs to predict the future athletes who will be competitive, who will become very competitive. There's no question about it. And the rest of the Caribbean could learn from that for sure. It seems you don't understand how to host your guests. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. You have to be a host. Hospitality is important. It's really important to be hospitable. You cannot have people leaving the event hoping that they never see that country again. And it's a beautiful country. Those sky views are amazing. 40K attend champs in a day. Imagine that. Track and field event for juniors. You was well hosted. It was a good looking environment, but the conversation coming out of the space suggested a little bit different. Not saying for sure that it was well hosted. It was hosted. Let's say it was hosted. That's it. Trinidad government sent a delegation to champs this year. Okay, cool. Did anybody compete? When you said a delegation, are you saying like adults? Are you talking about officials, or did you have athletes who actually went there to run in specific events that they were trying to compete among the best in their age group? That's just a real question that I don't have no idea to. Kuya Scarlett, that was a question really. Troy Graham, when you see some stuff the Bahamian right, you can see they were envious of us. Not our fault. We are great at track and field. Bahamas, just think about losing 37 years in a row. And then, and you're still a competitive person. That does something to you. It does something to you after a while, for sure. Elena Rowe, it's a track and field Carifta event. Platinum Sweets. What a name, right? Yes, I knew one Guyanese girl going to Dintil. That's nice. And I'm sure in the future we'll see that person representing for her country, if she is not already represented for her country. At Bahamian, envy produced haters, and we surely didn't have to. Kuya Scarlett, the Bahamian only topped the medal table at Carifta Games only twice. And I wonder how many medals did they get, because if it was a really competitive event, would have seen Jamaica losing at least 20 medals, which would bring them to 50 something. So I'm sure it probably was under 50. It could have been an under 50 situation there. So yeah, we walked through that video. It was rough. It was rough for sure, but that's not the only video that we saw.
If
this is another one that I made.
Foot rolls over into the plasticine, the placement of the board is fine. But if she rolls over into the plasticine,
take a look at it.
The front of the shoe, that looks close, that looks clean. The next frame, toe still flat.
Oh, that's a clean jump.
That looks clean.
We still don't know what the officials have decided, and that is my issue here. Now, the coach, the Jamaican coach, Jeremy Delisa, he knows the rules. He's been here many times. He's been doing this for many, many years. And
this meet does have a little dossier of protests and resets. Everyone on their P's and Q's here.
Based on what?
All right, just from looking at this and how long they're deliberating for an event that usually, when you see an athlete jump, within seconds, the white flag goes up. This one took close to 10 minutes for the white flag to go up. And the speculation that surrounded this one was that they were holding out because they were hoping that the Bahamian athlete who had the 4th place at the time, who also had one jump left, would have gotten an opportunity to get in that medal contention, in that medal position. So if she had gotten disqualified from this event here, from this particular jump, the time was better than She was in third place, but this jump was better than the current third place jump that she had. They were hoping that she would have gotten a faulty start and then the Bahamian would have jumped into that position. Well, that's the speculation, right? That's one of the things that cause people to continuously be suspicious. So I'm saying that celebrate however you want, but just win the proper and correct way.
We have seen, and I don't know if they are seeing something different from what we have seen, but based on what we have seen, I cannot understand why we're still here.
They're making sure, Ricardo.
And I guess this conversation has come up in football as well, that yes, you want to get the right decision, but how long is it going to take? It's 5.78 meters. That's the mark. Looks as if it has been given to Bruce. It doesn't improve her positioning. She remains in third position, but what it does for sure is make life a lot more difficult for Lanesha Lubin of the Bahamas. She now needs 5.79 meters to move into the medals. Steady down the runway once again, and that may well be her best effort of the competition.
She can really jump Dejanay Bruce. No extension on the jump a while ago, but extra jump power off the board.
Very close on the board. The officials having a really close look before the decision is made. No flag yet. The officials consult. Taking a while to make the decision. That's a clean jump.
If the foot rolls over into the plasticine, the placement on the board is fine. But if she rolls over into the plasticine, the front of the shoe, that looks close, that looks clean. The next frame, toe still flat.
Oh, that's a clean
that
jump.
That looks clean.
We still don't know what the officials have decided, and that is my issue here. And the medal's not quite decided yet because Lubin, who passed round 5, is now going to take an attempt in the 6th and final round. They have called the athlete over to have a look.
Video review, I think, on a tablet.
This is a little strange, don't you think? Still no flag.
Before video technology, the athlete would be invited to look at the board and the plasticine to see if their feet was over the board and into the plasticine, which helped people tell fair jumps and foul jumps. This is the 21st century.
Now, the athlete can request that the mark be measured just in case there is a protest. So they are measuring the mark. I've still not seen a flag, so I don't know what the decision of the officials is. That's a clean jump.
If the foot rolls over into the plasticine, the placement on the board is fine. But if she rolls over into the plasticine, the front of the shoe, that looks close, that looks clean. The next frame, toe still flat.
Oh, that's a clean jump.
That looks clean.
We still don't know what the officials have decided, and that is my issue here.
Of course, there is.
Okay, so yeah, that is that for that one. But you saw how long it took for them to make a decision about whether or not it was a legitimate jump. And again, it somehow seems like there was intentions behind it. The intention was for it to stall and give their athlete a shot at getting that medal. I'll continue going through these comments. So Queer Scarlett saying that the Bahamians, they only won twice. Yeah, I was saying that one, or they topped the chart twice. I was saying that it might have been extremely close even then. If Jamaica focused on swimming for a year, we would take it. The thing is, I don't know if there was any athlete. I know that we have Jamaican athletes who won on a world level. So I know that we have the capabilities, but we really don't focus on that. But we do have the capabilities, and at least one record, at least one Jamaican have one record on the world stage, on the world level, adult level. So I can see that happening for sure. Trini government officials took notes for champs in Jamaica. They want to replicate. And you see, that's another thing, right? Champs is a very big deal. in the Caribbean and the world, because I don't think there's anything else like that in the world. But just look at Jamaica as a country with the best athletes, adult and juniors, and they don't find a way to monetize it properly. Trinidad and Tobago or any other country going to Jamaica to learn from them, they will monetize that. That's one thing that Jamaica lack. They continue to lose in that department for sure. Juliet Clark, good night. It is a downright disgrace in Bahamas. It don't look good at all, for sure. And when we highlight that, we talk about it, it seems like we are hating. It seems like we are beating a dead horse. And maybe we are. We're not hating. But we keep saying the same thing, not saying over and over, right? But it's because the excuses and the lack of remorse and everything else that comes with it, it's like they are oblivious to what happened. So you have to talk about it again. If they had apologized at least once, or more than once, because they had so many different things that they needed to apologize for. Jamaica has outgrown Carifta. We don't need it, but Carifta need us. Jamaica definitely outgrown Carifta, but Jamaica, if possibly, they could create an event like that annually in Jamaica for themselves that invite other countries to come and compete. It would help with some kind of revenue building in Jamaica. It could help with the financial situations, because if you look at, we're talking about hosting properly. If they had a competition where they could invite other schools, other adults, a competition that would drive tourism, this is one thing that probably could do it if they did it right. Bahamas, we have lost over 30. So this one's for you, Bahamas. We have lost over 30 something times in a row, but we are next to host this event. Call everyone. We need to have a planning. We meeting on how we're gonna go about this one. And then it's their 50th anniversary. All we need, we won't win. We won't win, but we want 50 medals. We come win, lose, or draw. We're getting 50 medals. There are lots of different scheming that happened for sure. Cool Kaiser. Big up. St. Kitts did very well at Carifta. For some of the smaller countries, they did extremely well. And they had elite athletes. It might be one, it might be two, it could be as much as 5. Jamaica is a standout because we have multiple elite athletes. But these small countries, they need to compete against Jamaica in order to properly measure where they are in the world. You don't need to go into like too far out in the world. Stay in the Caribbean and measure your competence against Jamaica, and you would know how competent you are against the world. Mission field, still a joke. Oh, I don't know. Bahamas never quit. Where is Mr. Bahama? God. Marlon Tracy, me say, me happy if you see St. Kitts team. For real. These small teams, and you know what? The small countries, St. Kitts and Nevis, that I saw the parade that they had for the small group of athletes that they had. They had a parade, a real parade. You could see how happy they were. They had their athletes through the street with everybody cheering them on. Jamaica had won so many times. They lift the bar over and over. At this point, it seems like we're immune to all of that excitement. Now, when we get this kind of controversy, you'll find that it become like, oh, this is an offshoot of whatever happened. But St. Kitts and Nevis, for real, I really appreciate how they celebrated their athletes for winning, I think, 11 medals. They celebrated their athletes like they were the true champion of the Carifta Games. And that is really refreshing to see, because the next time around, those athletes will be motivated to do even better. No doubt. St. Kitts took home 5 gold medals, and none of those were fluke. None of those were fluke. Those medals that St. Kitts took home, they worked for it really hard. And even like at Trinidad and Tobago, they work really, really hard. They just were dominated by the Jamaican team. But you could see the effort and you can appreciate it. No question asked. They really did a good job. For the most part, the athletes that put the effort in, and you saw that they congratulated the Jamaican team. At this point, Jamaica is dominant. And the way how we contribute to the rest of the world or the Caribbean is by competing at high levels and giving those athletes an opportunity to gauge their strength against a true champion or a powerhouse in the Caribbean. You don't have to leave the Caribbean to get that competition that you need. Alia Atkinson. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Alia Atkinson on the world stage, and she's not the only one who competed on the world stage and did really, really well. But Alia Atkinson, if I'm correct, she might have gotten the 50-meter freestyle fastest time. I'm not sure if she have the world champion, the world record, but I know she had something. So I believe that Jamaica, if they focused on swimming, they could compete at the Carifta. They would not necessarily dominate, but they would compete for sure. So yeah, it's I saw the parade as well and loved it. Yeah, the parade was refreshing to see it, because those athletes, as small as their team is, they had a big parade for their team. Everybody was enjoying it. People were saying that wherever the next Carifta game is hosted, they will be going there. They got motivated to want to help their team. They want to be a part of their team because of how well their team did. And this is how it starts. This is how the next champion from a small country. This is how the small athletes, the big athletes from small country are born. This is how they were born. From these kind of, it was the world record. So Alia Atkinson actually had a world record in swimming, and Jamaica is not known for swimming. And you know what's funny? If you ask a lot of Jamaicans, can you swim? They would tell you no. They can't. A Safa pole. I was watching something recently where he was saying that he cannot swim. Right? He can run. At one point, he was the fastest man ever, but he can't swim. So we can eat yam for sure. We can eat yam. Tell them to start eat yam and banana. Alia Atkinson really? So the record still stands after such a long time, and she's an athlete. But it shows that if you really set your mind to it, because that's how it started in Jamaica. For a while, they had a lot of third places. Merlin Ati just not getting that first place. Yeah, a lot of people who just didn't get the medal that they wanted until there was a breakthrough, and it continued. It just seemed like a gift that keep on giving, right? And Jamaica, they keep medaling at the highest stage right now. Marlon Tracy, what's the name of the sisters from Trinidad again? I want to big them up for coming out and represent Trinidad and Tobago in different events. But for sure, I'm not sure if they are twins. Huh? Yeah, those two sisters, I saw it. At one point, I was wondering if I was seeing doubles, but naturally it is doubles. It's two sisters running, looking good. They look really good. They remind me of the Clayton twins. Marlon Tracy, trying to reach Grenada next year for Carifta. And I'm sure that will be a good event because, yeah, the Frederick sisters, yeah, that's what they are. The Frederick sisters. Yeah, appreciate that. So trying to reach Carifta next year for trying to reach Grenada for Carifta. I'm sure Grenada will do a good job. They would want to do the best that they can. It's in their country, they're the host. I'm sure they will lay it all out on the line to do the best. But I hope that the controversies dies with this Carifta, because the Caribbean need all of the different teams for sure. They need all of the different teams for a different reason. The different teams don't need Carifta, but the Carifta need all of them. Because Belize, a small country, got 2 gold medals, and that athlete who won those 2 gold medals, that's a future Olympic champion. 1,500, 3,000, future champion. Bahamas tried to steal St. Kitts medals. Hey. Well, right now, hey, you know what? I was looking at some comments. Honestly, I don't know if I can find these comments, but I was looking at some comments, and some of these comments are totally just completely funny. Somebody was saying that Carifta was corrupt. I wonder if Andrew had anything to do with it. Some of these things are just really funny. It's super funny. St. Lucia did well with their athletes also. The Caribbean, and the thing is, Jamaica is like a big brother. You know, you always want to compete with your big brother, especially if you're competitive, a big brother or big sister, and win. At some point, you just want to win. And even if you don't win, you see how they compete and you know it's possible. That's what's happening, I think. That's what's happening with Jamaica. That's what's happening with a lot of the different countries. Just the ability to compete and prove to yourself that you can. That's what I think is happening. So yeah, as I said, it was an open. I could drop a link in the chat. Always open to a call in if needed. That Belize athlete that did the long running remind me of Kimai Campbell. Grenada as a yearly champ as well, really. Kimai Campbell. Mm-hmm. And I think there was a long run. I don't remember if it was 1,500 girls who was really. I can see her as a future champion as well because of how methodical she was. She was really methodical. She sprinted on the last leg. Interesting. It was really good. It's very good. Grenada are yearly champs. I've never heard of it. Maybe it's because Jamaica just have a huge champs that overshadows everything else. Congratulations to the Cayman Islands. The Cayman Islands, you see, when he won the 100 meter, I think he won the under 20 100 meter, he was saying that the Cayman Islands is on the rise. They believe in themselves. And I'm sure that just having somebody to compete against will bring out the best in you. And they believe in themselves. Just winning a single medal, winning a gold medal, you believe in yourself even more. And they're saying that they're on the rise. They will get even better. And I can see that happening because Jamaica was also on the rise for a very long time, running against the United States of America. They were on the rise until I think we got that breakthrough when Asafa Powell started to run some really fast times. Even though it was not medaling, it was just showing that it's possible until his group from the MVP started doing really well. And then Usain Bolt came and the breakthrough really came at that point. So these small countries, they're on the rise. And Grenada, he had this really good 400 meter athlete. I just can't remember his name. I've been trying to remember his name for a while. But he's definitely among the best. And even Mila Weebull from Bahamas, world class. You cannot deny that. And she is one of the athletes that Jamaica have to run and try to keep up with. She's a champion, world class. So we all need each other. And it starts at champs, without a doubt. Kemoy would continue to overlap everybody at champs back then. That fellow that ran by himself, I think he won a medal. Unfortunately, he didn't. It would have been nice if he had won, but it would have been better if he had compete against somebody. He got fourth place, but it was 100th of a second off the medal. So that's why I think it was a disservice to him. And it was because of incompetence by the athlete, by the organizers. So I did have a stream that I started out with. I had a video that I started out with. I could go ahead and play that video again, because that video, it had a number of
athletes were provoked based on the response.
Local and international fans.
Sunday. Can you take us through that process and what would have triggered the officials' decision to rerun the race?
As you know, and correctly mentioned that the leg did not leave the box, his hand did not leave the trap.
He was the one.
So that was not a false start. He was not disqualified, and it was rerun based on the decision of the starter.
The Bahamian athlete not starting while the other athlete started, and everybody pretty much ran up to 80 meters. And so they felt that there should be, that the Bahamian declared null and void, that we didn't. Somehow the video just disappeared. And it was particularly unsettling that the jury, in their deliberation, did not have access to a video of the event. Somehow the video just disappeared. And they were only able to view something on YouTube.
I've ever seen that in Carifta Games history.
We thought it was particularly strange.
Okay, so
what about the St. Kitts athlete who had to run all alone? How did that happen? Because I don't think I've ever seen that in Carifta Games history.
Reported it to the timing officials, who went through their photo finishes, and it was found that he did not earn the spot in the finals, and it was the St. Kitts athlete that earned the spot. We then redid the start list, and at the end of the day, we failed to make contact with the St. Kitts athlete, informing him that he had made the finals. We did have some communication challenges at the meet, and I think this all was a part of our shortcoming. You know, as a meet director, I have to take full responsibility for that. We failed that athlete, and at the end of the day, that athlete wanted to run that race. It was until the finish of the race, the 200 that the athlete coaches learned that he did not show. He had the slowest time qualifying for the finals, and he ended up with after his run the race official time at the Carifta Games.
The St. Kitts. I mean, the athlete actually reported to the call room and was denied access, and therefore he was not allowed to run because his name was not on the start. So, you know, the events as outlined by Mr. Charlton is not really what happened. He actually showed up, and it was not until they protested that they realized that the athlete was denied the opportunity to run, and therefore they had to allow him to run by himself.
Sir David, I'm trying to understand something here, and I just
as you're there you can see it. The athlete running by himself is a disservice. Just imagine an Olympics final where an athlete have to run by themselves after putting what usually it's like 9 months of training. After putting so much time into training, and then getting to that point where you have to run by yourself. It's a disservice, and you're not challenged. Look at the athletes who break records. the athletes who run their fastest time, their PBs, they are usually challenged by the rival in the said inside the race. That's a disservice. So the athlete didn't win a medal, but could have won a medal. They could have won. Probably was a favorite to medal for sure. Yeah, man, big up. You know, to be honest, most of the greatest I saw them first on Unseen TV. So big up yourself too. That Senskit guy run by himself could do a better time if he did have competition. He could earn the bronze. He probably could earn more than the bronze. You never know. But if he was 100th of a second off, he definitely could have medal because he ran by himself. What was the motivation? He could have been motivated somehow, but running with a rival, it brings out something in you. You want to beat that person. You know, some people run not to get past. Like, they don't want you to pass them, so they run as hard as they can. While some people will chase you with everything in them, trying to pass you. Yeah, man. Unseen TV for sure. Go over there and subscribe if you haven't done so as yet. You'll see even more races on Unseen TV than what you have seen right now and Rewrite the Narrative, for sure. So yeah, support. So I think you can support, or you should support, all the channels that is providing any kind of content, because this is kind of somewhere that you could get entertainment or even perspective. It's just a community that is being built slowly. I'll continue this video again for the people who came in later.
I just want you to help me with this process. Did the starters have leeway to use discretion in their decision making?
What race? The 200?
No, just generally.
Well, I don't. Well, if you're talking generally, yes, starters do have, according to IWF rules, they do have they can use their discretions at certain times. And if
you see, that's such a powerful question, because does the starter have discretion to make their own decisions? And yes, they have the discretion. They can make their own decisions. You know how powerful that is? You can make your own decision, but what's your motivation behind the decisions? What's your motive? What are your intentions? You know, that's where the problem comes in. And if you can withhold information from the other athletes, the other delegates, you put yourself in a very powerful spot. So he asks a question that set up so many different questions, asking for so many different answers. And each time he triggered the trap card, he just started mumbling like a child, like a baby, babbling.
Particularly by the 4x1, yes, the starter did use his discretion and disqualifying the Bahamas and rerunning the races right then.
And that's what I'm talking about in terms of the possibility of certain races going into disrepute because of the use of said discretion. Because my question now is straight in regards to that particular race. Wasn't there a reaction time?
Yes, there was. Now, so what happened there, I could not tell you.
And that's another question. The reaction time, that's where you really hold, or that's where you hold the athlete accountable using technology, the reaction time, the laser at the board, the laser on the board for the long jump. Those are how you hold the athletes accountable. But they're using the eye test. They're using just the plain old eye test to confirm whether or not a person had a false start. And this is where some of the problem came in, because you just cannot tell. And then miraculously, the videos that you could slow down frame by frame disappear. The reaction time from the blocks disappear, and then they're nowhere to be found. That's where the problem comes in. That's why there are so many controversies.
My question now is straight in regards to that particular race. Wasn't there a reaction time?
Yes, there was. Now, so what happened there, I could not tell you because we did have the reaction block set, Now, the exact detail as to why that did not register, I cannot answer that question.
Oh, so it was a case of it not being registered.
I cannot, like I said, I cannot answer that question right.
This statement on the screen here. St. Kitts athlete ran by himself without any time. No, I don't know for sure what happened there. I didn't see it. But if an athlete really ran without the time, then you're putting the athlete at a disadvantage also, because you could have at least ran against the time. Because if you're running and not even knowing what time you're trying to run, I think it put you at a disadvantage for real. If that's the case, that's really rough for sure. I'll keep this going.
Now, but yes, we did have the block sensors on. Why it was not picked up or what, I can't answer that. Yes, I think that is a very valid question as to why that was not used. And I cannot answer why the jury of appeal did not use that in their decision making.
Is that?
He cannot answer why. No, he's the head. He's the Carifta director of competition. He's the head, and he cannot answer that one. But I guess you have to be diplomatic. You cannot let your words be held against you in the court of law. Oh, well, this is not really the court of law, but same principle.
You went down.
Use that in their decision making.
Is that the reason why the protest would have been based on the video evidence that would have been used?
That is correct.
Formal request in writing to see the report from this false start information system for the semifinals, or that DeAndre Daly was given a false start. And Carifta Games has ended, and we've not received that. Yet they were able to produce it very fast for Bahamas to make their protest. For the one thing to hurt.
You know, that stare down is such a disrespect. You run him down, you pass him, you look on him. It's such a disrespect. But it was a beautiful disrespect, I think. This one is the highlight of the... obviously, it's not the race of the tournament, but for me, it's the race of the tournament. The highlight of the tournament was that you run him down, you pass him, you look at him, and then it's just justification that for the disqualification in the 100-meter semifinals, which was not confirmed, they did not prove that it was a real false start. He was just removed from the race. Rough. It was rough. And to make it even worse, the ace athlete that we had was injured in that event. So Jamaica didn't medal in that event. So that was a potential robbery, allegedly.
And we just found it very strange that some of those operational things seem to be working only for the host team and not for all the teams that are participating. We just believe that the information that the Bahamian team had access to is not the same information that everybody else had access to. And I think that's a little bit not what the sport is about. We need to be fair in terms of who has what, that the best result is obtained and not necessarily the best result for you. And I think that's the really concern that most of the delegations had. I mean, the issues were not with the Jamaican team. The issues were right across the board. You mentioned.
All right, there you have it. So everybody had a problem. Everybody. They weren't really selective in who they were trying to rob. They weren't selective in who they were trying to upset. They weren't selective in who had poor hospitality. Or it was just everybody. That stare down, yeah, for sure. That stare down was world class, man. I don't know if someday it's gonna cost us. You know, we're starting to run like that. You know, in Kume, that's how we run now. And I think that after losing to Tobago, the way how he did, Tobago look at him and just dominated him. He ran, I think, was 10:02 in that race. It was the finals of the World Championship. Tobago 9.91, and he just outran him. So now almost every race in Kume, look at the athlete that he's running with, looking over, looking behind. And right now, this race, this was the best I've ever seen it. The best. because he ran from behind, really was behind. And then he just closed the gap, look back at him and just win. Different. It's different than when you are leading. You're just always at the front and looking back. When you're running from behind, you catch up, you pass, you look back. It shows total dominance. That's the best I've ever seen it. But I think it's not the best practice. And at some point, they need to step outside of that for sure, because it will cost them at some point. Or if it doesn't cost them a medal, it may cost them. They may get injured. They may get injured, or somebody they might be looking at their rival on the left, and the next best guy is on the right, and they just run past them. They're not focused. Shelly Ann Fraser, focus from the first step. She's looking at the finish line, just keeping her head high and straight ahead. Big up. Well, he go out there and do his job and get the job done. Well done. No, absolutely. Big up the young man. Absolutely. It's obviously the best race. It's the best race, in my opinion, especially because he was disqualified from a race and nobody have any idea what happened or how he got disqualified, because they did not provide the block record. They did not provide the reaction time. None of that happened. They just used the camera and they look at it and said, oh, it's fast start. They didn't provide anything. So they removed the number one competitor from the race. And that probably leveled the playing field for the 100 under 20. And those, I'm sure, are some of the problems that they had to face. It would be really nice to listen to some of the athletes if somebody was ever able to hear their perspective. I'm not sure if they're allowed to talk about what happened or how they feel or how they truly feel, because as a professional person, you usually try to, discredit people or things or anything. You just try to stay within your lane and be as professional as you can. I'm sure they were taught not to get involved or give their perspective, but it would be interesting to hear from them. I'm sure, like what's this person, his name this time? It's I'm not sure. It's David something. I'm sure he is empowered to go out and say his piece and let you know what he's thinking. But the athletes, it would be nice to hear from them because they have the emotion. They're going through the emotions. It would have been nice. Robert Stewart, he closed the gap and said, I am the man. I think the Jamaicans were provoked by the Bahamians in the stands. Again, they were saying that the Bahamians were cheering the downfall of the athlete. After the athlete got injured, and Kumi, after he got injured, they were cheering. So, rightfully, yes, Hubert, they were provoked. Yeah, rightfully. Again, in this video, towards the end, he did suggest that they were. I made this video to suit the conversation.
You're not gonna get officials, but based on just the general feelings that they experience from some of the other athletes and some of the spectators. And I mean, our athletes have to learn to accept the reality that you're not gonna get a welcome mat everywhere you go, and your rivals and people who you're competing against don't necessarily have to show you.
Yes, please touch a like button for real. At one point, we had over 200.
And that's
like the video before you leave on your way out,
face.
or even right now, take a moment.
And
the video.
Maybe they're not accustomed to that, but that's the reality of how you compete.
But the Bahamians, David, have been for a long time Jamaica's biggest rivals at the Carifta Games level. And the fans, everyone would have been pumped up for this meet here. And it seemed quite repetitive that a lot of the Jamaicans who won, when they were interviewed post-race, they referenced silencing the crowd, as if the Bahamian atmosphere sort of provoked them into top quality performances. Was that how you saw it? As
the athletes were provoked based on the response when Bouagie went down. I think there were instances where persons were cheering when the athlete went down, and the athletes were a bit, disappointed, and they, it took them a while to recover from that experience.
Yeah, so yeah, they were. I'm sure the fans felt like it was just competition, the spirit of competition. I'm sure that the fans were having the time of their life, and they were just doing what others around them were doing. That just might be the situation, but the athletes train really really hard. It's just, if you have a job, think about you having a job, and then in the climate that we are living in, somebody lost their job. It's never nice, and these athletes, they have been investing in their bodies, in their future, and this is how they plan on earning a living and building a reputation for themselves. So when you see somebody get injured, it signals something bigger. It signals a setback. You never know, Gilbert Stewart. That's the reason why you see the Jamaicans giving the hand signal when they win or running were provoked. I think the Jamaican athletes was just, they were united together, because even after being removed, like they lost under 17 boys and girl medals, silver and gold. They lost the 110 hurdle medal. They didn't medal in the under 20 men, the under 20 men, right? So that would have been 2 medals. They didn't medal in the 200 under 20, I think, because a false start in one of them, and one person pulled out. There were so many different things that affected it. So many different things. And in the end, the athletes, they still felt like they were in an environment where they were not welcomed, from what I'm seeing. That's probably how they felt. And they still are the marquee athletes. If they didn't show up, the event wouldn't have been what it was, and probably you'd have gotten an outcry from the rest of the Caribbean saying that Jamaica feel like they are better than the event. So it's kind of crazy. Gillette Clark. That is why nobody should rob them from their medals. They work too hard. I agree completely. They invested their youth, their time. They don't eat the food that they like. They train all the time. They have to be disciplined. They have to say the right things. There's so many things are involved in this thing. So yeah, for sure. They should have been cherished by everybody else, because these athletes, they entertain the world, and they're preparing to entertain the world on an even larger scale. So these athletes, they should be cherished, even if they're from somewhere else, because you can appreciate a true competitor. You remember when Gatlin was running against Bolt, and he was the only competition, even though there were times that we had problems with the jet fuel. When the jet fuel was not involved, when the jet fuel was not involved, we cheered for the next best thing. Even though we were hoping to win against everybody, we still cheer for the next best thing, because we know that we beat the best when the best is a part of the event. So they definitely should protect the youths. Spanish, English, and reading tutorials. Big up yourself. Although the program did not see the medal standing, not once. Yeah, that I didn't even notice that, because I had to Google it. Yeah, that's true. I had to Google the medal standing, and man, I can just imagine if they had gotten to 50 medals, it would have been paraded everywhere. It would have been paraded for sure. And I don't want to say that it's because it's a thirdish world event, because they have world-class facilities. It might have just been controlling the narrative kind of thing. Yeah, it was nice with a sweep. Nice with a sweep. from the 4x4, and we usually lose that 4x4 to Bahamas because Jamaica, they're not the strongest in the 400 meters, but I'm sure they were motivated. There are a few medals that they could have won for sure, but they were motivated for sure. They were motivated to bring it home under the circumstances which they were existing in that event. Yeah. There are so many different controversies that even now talking about them, sometimes I feel bad because I feel like just highlighting stuff that it's already gone, yes, but it's like it seems like it make them look bad. But even if we didn't talk about it, it still exists. Yeah. So that's that for that. Anybody have any topic that probably could have been touched on that didn't get touched on? You know, like other people would definitely be interested in a topic that didn't get touched on. I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon. Just want to say, truly appreciate everybody who stopped by. Truly appreciate all the comments. For those who haven't liked yet, 138 still remaining. Please like the video before you leave. Would appreciate that so much. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And let's see if we could make this a little community and go live from time to time, talk about stuff from time to time. Appreciate you all. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Today, Elaine Thompson, she ran her first race of the season. She didn't win, but we know that she usually have a slow start to her events. The Trinidadian sisters, yeah, they did really well, and they seems like they are multi-talented. They could have they carried Trinidad on their back for sure. They did very well, no doubt about that. They look, I think I had a picture of a race with them. They are very good for sure. They are definitely the future. If they can, they'll have to keep up. They'll have to keep up with Jamaica, but they have been doing very well. And if they can keep up, then they're the future for sure, without any question. Without any question for sure. And the guys from Belize, the guy from Belize, the under 17 guy who ran 15 and 3,000, it's also another one to watch for. There are so many, but it's like these were the marquee or the standout problems that they might have gotten over. The number one events got overshadowed by those. So Marlon, Tracy, truly appreciate you stopping by. Thank you so much. Big up and thanks for having us. I truly appreciate all of you guys stopping by. Hopefully there are some exciting events that could bring us together once more. And the link is very active. So I'll drop it in the comments early and we could discuss. Because I might not be as knowledgeable about the events as some of you are. I'm sure some of you are super fans, more knowledgeable, more passionate, and others would like to hear from you. So next time around, the link will be in the chat, or maybe I'll pin it somewhere so that's available, and you are welcome to call in. Thank you guys so much. Truly appreciate it. I'm going to sign off now. It's Rewrite the Narrative. Remember to always like, share, and subscribe.